and he sees someone sitting on his throne. And from the time he sees this vision on his throne, ثُمَّ أَنَبْ, it terrifies him to such an extent, he immediately turns to Allah in a state of repentance. Did he commit any sin? No, 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 no. It is what he saw, it is what Allah gave him in a vision that caused him to recoil with this fright in his heart. What did he see? Let us turn to the Quran. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد فتنا سليمان. We gave him a vision which was fitna. It caused him distress. وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ جَسَدٍ. And we cause a jasad to be placed sitting on his throne. Now, sometimes Allah gives us a vision. We take 5,000 years to understand it. But Sulaiman alayhi salam has wisdom. His wisdom is such, in a twinkling of an eye he understands the vision. And here is his response to the vision. And in the response, you can read and understand what is his understanding of the vision. Qala Rabbi ighfir li. His response was first of all to seek forgiveness from Allah. Not for any specific sin, not at all. Rather, that when he wants to ask for something, he first begins by making istighfar. When you want to ask for something, first say, I seek forgiveness for my sins, and then ask for what you want to ask. You know what they ask for. They want a Mercedes-Benz and they want a big house in defense housing. You have defense in, big house. And when you and I ask, you know what we ask for? We ask for knowledge. That's the difference. So he asks, Rabbi ighfir li, kindly forgive me my sins. وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. What does it mean? And grant that none can inherit my kingdom after me. And grant that there can never be another kingdom like mine. So in this, you have to think to find out what is his understanding of the vision. It's not there in black and white. You have to think. And that's the one thing Pakistan has not been doing for a long time. Yes. And the Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, and indeed more than that, according to Iqbal, is the whole ummah stop thinking. Who said that? If I say that, oh my God, you'll be very angry with me, but when Iqbal says it, you know, who is Iqbal? Yeah, this ummah stopped thinking 300 years ago. I thought it was 5, but somebody corrected me, said no, 3. He said 300 years. And now they don't want you to think. You send your son to the Darul Uloom, he goes in the factory, he comes out the factory. You're not allowed to think. And when you do think, they warn the whole world, listen, he's only thinking, this is only his opinion. Be careful of that man. He's thinking. Very dangerous thing to do, to think. Ah, yes, what a pathetic state of affairs. You have to think, because Allah says, I send this Quran to people who think. Not once, He said it several times. I have sent this Quran liqawmi yatafakkarun, people who think. And when you think, you must not think the way they drive on the roads of Lahore. When you think, you must think in a disciplined way. You must think using a methodology of thinking. You must follow the art of critical thinking. And that's in short supply today. They don't teach it in the universities. So now then, what did he see? That he should make this dua. This is the only Khilafah state on earth. And Allah said to the angels, I'm sending them on earth for this reason, so that the Khilafah state can be established. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. This is the first page of the book of history. And now it is realized. And there is a holy state in Jerusalem. And it is the ruling state in the world. And Banu Israel are ruling the world. Why should he make a dua? I don't want anyone to inherit this state after me. Meaning, when I die, khatam, everything must go. And there must never be another state after me comparable to mine. What it is he saw, you have to think. And when you think, the answer is plain and clear. If they don't want to think, leave them alone. I wish I could shout it a little louder. If they don't want to think, leave them alone and move on with your life. They are equivalent in history to rubbish. What he saw sitting on the throne, Allah showed it to him, was someone who was really, 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 really wicked. Someone who was evil. And that evil man sitting on my throne, he wants to inherit my kingdom. Is that so difficult to recognize? When you do a little bit, bas 5 rupiah of thinking. Huh? He saw someone monstrously evil sitting on his throne. Allah showed it to him. And he wants to inherit my kingdom. One of the reasons why he could read the vision so quickly was because he had wisdom. But there's a second reason. The second reason is that Allah has already taught every prophet. Every prophet of Allah has already been taught about that fella. So he knows him. So who could he be who is so monstrously evil and who wants to inherit the Khilafah state, Holy Israel? He wants to rule the world from Jerusalem. And this represents such a threat that Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam said, I prefer that my kingdom should perish rather than that he should rule the world from my holy state. There's only one answer to that, only one. Allah taught every prophet of Allah about Dajjal. So he knows the subject. And so we came to the conclusion that the Jasad sitting on the throne is Dajjal. We don't have the time today to dwell on the word Jasad, what it means and so on, but I wrote this book, the Quran, Dajjal and the Jasad. It is, I'm sure, the first book of its kind ever written. Ever written. This is Allah's kindness to me that several of my books break new ground, written for the first time. And if Dajjal is sitting on the throne and he wants to inherit the kingdom, it is the false Messiah who wants to get the world to accept that he is the true Messiah. He's known as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. So he can take the Jews for a ride and get them to believe that he is the Messiah, when indeed the Messiah is the son of Mary. And in the process of seeking to deceive them, he must, number one, he must liberate the Holy Land for the Jews. But Allah had expelled them from the Holy Land and banned their return. And Allah has said the only time they would ever come back to Jerusalem is when Gog and Magog bring them back. So there's a link between Dajjal and Gog and Magog. Even a teenager will be able to understand me. So why can't the scholars understand? Not only must he liberate the Holy Land, he must bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own 2,000 years after Allah had expelled them. The most momentous event in history, in the religious history of mankind, will unfold on that day when the Jews are brought back to reclaim Jerusalem as their own. It had not as yet happened when Iqbal was alive, but it's happened now, we are alive. And if you don't seek an explanation from that, for that event in the Quran, and you are content to simply eat your biryani and go home and sleep, and of course I like biryani, then and you can be considered a scholar? Is that scholarship? And then he has to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land and make them believe that this is holy Israel. And then he has to cause this Israel to rule the world. But he is a shadow in three parts. Suratul Mursalat, a shadow in three parts. Suratul Mursalat of the Quran. So the first part of the shadow, he gave us a ruling state. And in the second part of the shadow, he gave us another ruling state. But they don't teach this in political science. And in the third part of the shadow, he gives us the last ruling state. The first was Britain, Pax Britannica. The second was United States, Pax Americana. And now the third would be Israel, Pax Judaica. And so this man sitting on the throne is Dajjal. He wants to rule the world. As soon as Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam made this dua, Allah accepted it. And when he died, the kingdom collapsed. Finished. Khatam ho gaya. And the Jews did not know why they have lost it. It was traumatic for them. They're grieving, their hearts are broken. And it was in that state that Allah gave them the good news that He's going to send someone who will be their prophet. He will be known as the Messiah, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, who would be their prophet, not ours. He's coming to them, not to us. Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is sent to all mankind, but he is sent to them, not to us. And when he comes back to them and not to us. This is elementary thinking. That when Allah has said something in the Quran, you'd make a fool of yourself if you say something else. So he died, kingdom collapsed. But then the Quran spoke about his death. It is, I think, in Surah An-Naml. We have any Hafiz? And strange language now in the Quran as we come to Dabbatul Ard, or the creature of the earth. The Quran spoke in language which seems to have been misunderstood. And when you look in the books of tafsir, the commentaries of the Quran, the classical ones up to the most modern, they say that when Sulaiman alayhi salam died, no one knew he was dead. He died while sitting on his throne, holding on to his staff. And no one knew he was dead. And he remained like this for a long time. Until some termites, they came and they started to bite at the bottom of the staff. I don't know how many years it took. I can't help laughing now. I don't know how many years it took. And then the staff lost its balance. And then the body collapsed. And in the Caribbean, when we tell stories to our children, we end the story by saying, and crick, crack, the wire bends. And that's the way the story ends. Crick, crack, the wire bends. And that's the way the story ends. That's how you tell stories to children. And that's what I have to say for this. Yes. So all of this time while he was dead, no one knew he was dead. Nobody brought food for him. He stopped eating food. So why is he not eating? Nobody brought water for him to drink. Why is he not drinking? He never goes to the toilet. Kya ho gaya? He's not talking to anyone. Kya ho gaya? He doesn't go on sleep. Kya hua bhai? It seems as though the commentators of the Quran want us to believe that everybody went to sleep. And no one could observe. He mar gaya. This is the pathetic stuff that you find in the commentaries of the Quran. Check it out yourself. Me, I laugh when I read it. But you might choose to respond differently. Well then, if this is not what actually happened, this that is fit for a storybook, what it is that happened? The Quran tells us that Allah had ordered the shayateen of the jinn to work for Sulaiman alayhi salam in his wisdom. And I don't have to seek to penetrate that to explain to you why. Some of them are in chains, mukarranina fil asfad. And Sulaiman orders and they must obey. And we are told of all the things they were doing for him. Like building utensils, manufacturing utensils for the temple. And when Sulaiman died, alayhi salam, all of us knew he was dead. And we made the Salatul Janazah, of course, in accordance with that Sharia, and we buried him. So who was it who did not know he was dead? The jinn. The shayateen of the jinn who are in chains, who are not in our world of space and time, but who still are convinced he's alive. Why are the shayateen of the jinn convinced that he is alive? Can't they see? Don't they have eyes to see? The answer is simple. The Jasad was shown sitting on the throne because this is now the time when the Jasad will sit on the throne. And he'll be holding on to the staff. And so long as the minsa'a, the staff is a sa'a with sword. Minsa'a is seen. So minsa'a and sword cannot be the same. This asa. Asa is the staff. Minsa'a is something connected with the staff. Only when the minsa'a of the staff is consumed by Dabbatul Ard, only then will the jinn realize we've been taken for a ride. We've been deceived. Meaning, this is not Sulaiman. We have no obligation to obey him. And so what happened was that when he died and we buried him, the jinn did not know that he was dead because Dajjal was sitting on the throne, holding on to the staff. And because of a certain property of the staff that the Quran describes as the minsa'a of the staff, Dajjal was able, listen carefully, to intervene in time in such a way that he could bring time forward and backward and present Sulaiman alive and walking and talking and eating and deceive the jinn. At that time it must have been something fantastic to think about, but today it's commonplace. You could see it on television. You can go on television and see Muhammad Ali Jinnah talking and walking. Huh? I don't know whether we have videos of Iqbal, do we? No. But Jinnah, you have. So, images of someone who is dead showing the person alive is commonplace today. Commonplace. Because we have the technology. But the jinn didn't know about that. And so up to this day, as I speak, they are still following the orders of Dajjal. Dajjal is still sitting on the throne. But of course, the shadow we are only seeing the shadow. The real person will emerge only after the 3 stages of the shadow. Intaliku ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. Proceed to a shadow which will appear in 3 parts. Which surah? Suratul Mursalat. Only when the 3 stages of the shadow have ended will Dajjal appear in person. And when you appear in person, you appear as a human being, as a young man, powerfully built, a Jew, Orthodox Jew, with the curls at the side. And then he will stand up in Jerusalem and declare, I am the Messiah. You all know this already. The only one who doesn't know this is the Maulanas, the Muftis and the Shuyukh. They're under that room, so leave them alone. You all know this already. And so, he's still at work up to now. That's how they can bring cryptocurrencies. Yes. And that's how they can bring one currency for all of mankind. That computer has not as yet been built. No. Which can manage one currency for all of mankind. They have not built that computer as yet. So where is the computer? It's the jinn. It's called blockchain technology. Where is Colonel Ashfaq? He's not here. It was he who reminded me. He said, this is the method of the Prophet ﷺ. I teach you, and you teach them, and they teach them, and they teach them. The Prophet ﷺ does not have to address 150,000 people every weekend. Blockchain technology. They have this facility of manufacturing very cute expressions. So he's at work. And those who are following him, the Judeo-Christian Zionist Alliance, are being assisted by them, the jinn. 2 people, evil, one human beings and the other jinn, in alliance with each other. And these 2 people in this alliance are so dangerous. They are kuffar, they reject, they don't believe in a life hereafter. No. They are so dangerous that there is a surah of the Quran in which Allah refers to them 31 times in one single ayah. There's nothing else like this in the Quran. Nowhere. Nowhere in the Quran can you find one ayah repeated 31 times in one surah. It is extraordinary. It is as though Allah is knocking on your head 31 times. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. He's talking about two people. Who are the two? يَا مَعَشَرَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. A jamaat of human beings who are monstrously evil, and a jamaat of jinn who are shayateen, who are monstrously evil, and the two are in alliance with each other. And this is what is explaining the ascendancy of modern Western civilization and the state of Israel. But at the time of Iqbal, I don't think anyone would have been able to understand it. We have to excuse them. We live in a different age today from them. So then, the minsa of the staff, nasiya means time, nasi. إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ لِلْكُفْرِ, says Allah in Surah At-Tawbah. But when you tamper with the system of time, when you corrupt the system of time, that is the road to ever increasing kufr. إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ لِلْكُفْرِ. Excuse me. When you tamper with the system of time that Allah has created. When I look at the children today, I see it, that memory is declining in the children. I teach them because parents did not teach them. I say, okay, first surah, Suratul Fatiha, second one, Suratul Baqarah, third surah to Ali Imran, fourth surah to Nisa, fifth surah to Ma'idah. Now go, give you 5 minutes, go walk, memorize. Come back. Now you tell me, first 5, you tell me. The children who have the smartphones and who live in the city have the least memory. And the children from the countryside, Gaon, who are not exposed to the smartphone, the internet, the electromagnetic waves around us today, and who don't live in the city, they have the best memory. So our Prophet said, largely perhaps because of Dabbatul Ard. He said, the time will come when a believer, in order to protect his deen, would have to flee to the mountainsides. Why? Because the mountain blocks. You can't use your cell phone. He'll have to flee to the mountainsides and the places where rain falls. Take with him some sheep and goats. So I have come to the conclusion, and I can be wrong, Dabbatul Ard is not some creature like this pathetic termite that my critics accept, but rather the Dabbatul Ard is something which attacks and destroys the spiritual heart of the staff, and therefore can damage the spiritual heart of the human being. And I identify it with the electromagnetic waves now coming with 3G and 4G and 5G and 6G and so on. Finally, one last thing. There is a second reference to Dabbatul Ard in the Quran. Only two. This is the first one. with the stuff, consuming it. The second one is that Dabbatul Ard is a sign of the last day, and that they would either speak to mankind or damage mankind. The Arabic text can be read two ways. If it's being spoken, of course, we know exactly what it is. But when it's not spoken and it's written, then they put in these diacritical marks, Fatha and Kesra and Dhamma. And you can change it around because this didn't come from Allah. This is human beings. So they wrote it, the Dabbatul Ard tukallimuhum, would speak to mankind. And I said, I want to take that with a pinch of salt, because I still have a mind with which to think. Speaking to mankind. The other one is taklimuhum, would injure you and damage you. I said, that makes more sense to me. So I have departed from this. The overwhelming majority of the scholars of Islam and the Muslims accept that one. So they will have to solve their problem. I can't solve it for them. But because I accept that the Quran is saying that the Dabbatul Ard will damage you, this one makes a lot of sense. And the damage is already taking place. Similar with the one that I began, that the sign of all signs of the last day, وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. But they say no. وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. He is the knowledge of the hour. I say, you got trouble. When you say that Jesus alayhi salam is the knowledge of the hour, and Allah says, no, the knowledge of the hour is only with me. He doesn't have the knowledge of the hour. Muhammad alayhi salam does not have the knowledge of the hour. Only Allah has the knowledge of the hour. Even in the gospel, up to this day, their gospel says only the Father knows the hour. The Son does not know the hour. So this one is transparently false. That every single copy of the Quran you pick up today, they have put in, and He is the knowledge of the hour, when it should be, He is the sign of all signs of the hour. I've given you two instances where it's not the Quran which has been changed. Don't you make that mistake of saying that Imran has said someone changed the Quran, because you should be thrown into a garbage bin for speaking such a falsehood about me. It's not the Quran which has changed. It is the diacritical marks, the Fatha and the Kesra and the Dhamma, which were not there in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. There was no Fatha and Kesra and Dhamma. It is when non-Arabs entered in the Ummah to help us to read the Quran, they put in the Fatha and Kesra. So who put it in? The human beings put it in. And human beings can do good things and can also do bad things. Yeah, but guess what my critics say? Imran says that they changed the Quran. This is what these pathetic critics say. They claim, I say the Quran has been changed. They have nothing else to respond, so they use this garbage. I have finished my topic. I've offered you my view on Dabbatul Ard. And again, unfortunately, I'm a solitary voice. No one else has given this view. So again, I ask you to kindly study. Don't accept what I have said until you study the subject. And only when you are convinced that I am correct, only then should you accept my view. Inshallah, we stop now and we have a question and answer session. And then after that, we'll have the signing of the books, inshallah, autograph. Bismillah.
All right, Sheikh, first question coming from the sister side. The question is, what is
From
the
whom?
difference?
From
The sister side.
I'm the sisters, okay?
Yeah, coming from the sister side. What is difference between the word ad-dukhan and an-nas? And both mean smoke, but why Allah has used two words for the same thing? If it be something related to the nuclear explosion?
What are the two words?
Ad-dukhan and an-nas.
Dukhan is smoke and
An-nas.
nuhas. Yeah, nuhas. No, I don't know the answer to that question. I wish I knew. Dukhan is also smoke and nuhas is also smoke, yeah. It probably is a nuclear scientist. Might be able. What's his name in Islamabad? Sultan Bashir Mahmud. Go ask that question to him. Yeah, I think he'll be able to answer you. The distinction between Dukhan and Nuhas. Yeah, go ahead.
Next question is Dajjal from a specific race? Is Dajjal from a specific race? And do his characters resemble any specific person? How can we identify Dajjal?
Will someone please repeat for me what the question is? I couldn't hear him.
He says, is the Dajjal from a specific race, or what is his background?
Okay, is Dajjal from a specific race? The Prophet ﷺ said he would be a Jew. He would be a young man. He'd be powerfully built. He'd have the curls at the side that the Orthodox Jews have. So a human being. But the Quran says, our interpretation, he's a jasad. Our conclusion, because I don't want to spend half an hour, is that he appears as a human being. He's in every way that you look at him, he's a human being. But the ruh that Allah breathes into a human being is different from what he has. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. That ruh that we have gives us freedom. We can either go on this road or we can go on that. Gives us the freedom to think. Gives us the freedom to choose. He doesn't have that freedom. So he's everywhere, in every sense, a human being, except internally. Next question.
Yeah, the next question is, if the Dajjal appears, we leave our parents and children to fight alongside the Mahdi?
When Imam al-Mahdi emerges, and he will not emerge until Allah sends him. It's not Iran who will decide when he comes. It is Allah who will decide. And Allah will not send him, in my opinion, until Dajjal has completed his mission. At that time, when he emerges, it is the last stage of the last countdown. And he prepares the way for Nabi Isa alayhi salam, who is to come. So it's a countdown between the Imam on one side and Dajjal on the other side. And in that military struggle, every believer who has the capacity to reach him and who has the the age and the strength for fighting, must now take up arms, can go and join the fight, the battle. Every believer who has the capacity to reach him. And if you can't understand that, then go to the shop and buy another mind to think with. And who has the age and the strength to be able to join in the fighting battle must go and join that army, which will now liberate the Jaziratul Arab. So Saudi Arabia will return to the way it came from. The leaders of Saudi Arabia. They came from the garbage bin, they go back to the garbage bin. Yes. Next question.
Yeah, the question coming from the sister side. What is the relationship between Iblis and Dajjal? Does the Dajjal work for the Iblis, or Iblis is working for the Dajjal?
It's there in
they
Surah.
have a separate agenda or the same?
It is there in Surah Sad, the answer. Iblis has a whole army of jinn working with him, and they call the shayateen. So I don't have the capacity to distinguish Iblis from his army. If you know the knowledge, then please let me know. And these shayateen are now obliged to work for Dajjal. And they continue working so long as the minsa'a of the staff is not destroyed. Next question.
If Jerusalem is to be the center of the Khalifa state, then what role does Damascus have in the end of times, since Damascus and Syria are mentioned in various hadiths?
I'm not hearing the question. Can you help me, please? It's okay, don't repeat it.
Please.
What did you say? No, you didn't hear it.
No, I didn't.
You didn't hear it. Did you hear it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, tell
You
me.
better come forward. Yes.
What would be the role of Damascus and Iraq, you said?
Jerusalem.
If Jerusalem is to be the center stage of the Khilafah, what is the role of Damascus in all this, with their being mentioned in many hadiths?
Last night I had a long session, in consequence of which this morning I could only make Salatul Fajr. I go back to sleep. I couldn't recite the Quran this morning until about 8 o'clock, 8:30. That's when you destroy my night. When you give me biryani at 9:30 in the night. And then the guftagu, discussion is guftagu. The guftagu will continue until 11 o'clock. And in that discussion, I won't mention to you the names of the people. This subject came up. They asked me about this hadith and that hadith and that hadith. So then I had to stop them. I said, wait a minute. I have my methodology, you have yours. My methodology is that I will not go directly to a hadith for knowledge. I can go to a hadith for information, but not knowledge. There's a difference between information and knowledge. Information becomes knowledge when I've tested the hadith. Then it becomes knowledge. But they don't test the hadith. They simply accept it uncritically and then bombard me with questions. It's like, a difference between... let me not say that. I don't want to reveal the identities. Where's Colonel Ashfaq?
Yes, you can do.
Yeah. You have to, first of all, when you want knowledge from a hadith is different from when you want information from a hadith. Colonel Ashfaq is the head of my team here. in Lahore. That's why I want him to be present. A difference between mere information and knowledge. When you turn to a hadith for knowledge, you have to test the hadith. If it's mere information you want, I get information from even CNN. You have to use the Quran to test the hadith. And that is what I cannot get them to either accept or to do. They refuse to take the Quran and give to the Quran the status that it is absolute truth, al-haqqul yaqeen. This is not taught in your universities. That the Quran is al-haqqul yaqeen, absolute truth. Not the Department of Philosophy. That Allah has protected the Quran. Nothing else in the world is protected other than the Quran. And that it is with the Quran you must fight the greatest of all jihad. Jihadan kabira, with the Quran. So you have to use the Quran to judge the hadith. This is what I cannot get them to accept. I can't mention names because I must show respect for these scholars of Islam. I went yesterday to pay my respects to Dr. Iqbal. I went yesterday to pay my respects to Maulana Abul Ala Maududi, and I found his grave in a state of disrepair. I went yesterday to pay my respects to Maulana Amin Ahsan Islahi. Yeah. So these are men we must respect. Even when we make a difference, it must be done in a very respectful way. I cannot, not Amin Ahsan Islahi, he understood, oh yes, that the Quran sits in judgment over the hadith. That's why I honor this man so much. Amin Ahsan Islahi, Rahimahullah. Lahore ka rehne wale. And when you have studied the Quran as the Quran ought to be studied, the methodology for study of the Quran, you use the wrong methodology, guess what's going to happen? You will declare, as I was ready to declare when I was 17, Iblis is an angel. Yeah. And when you use the correct methodology, then you realize, Tawbah, I made a big mistake. That is why you must use right, correct methodology for study of the Quran. When you've done that work, and this is the greatest gift I ever got in my life, in my scholarly life, the correct methodology for the study of the Quran that I got from my teacher, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, Rahimahullah. He said, I'm not Brelvi, so the Brelvis threw him out of the window. He said, I'm not Deobandi, so the Deobandis threw him out of the window. He said, I'm not Ahli Hadith, so the Ahli threw him out of the window. Everybody threw him out of the window. So he was left all alone. But he was a scholar, and I am his student today. And I'm struggling to vindicate his scholarship, because the last shower of rain will come from there. And he was a student of Iqbal. When you have used the correct methodology for the study of the Quran, then you examine the hadith for knowledge, not information. Information is easy, knowledge is difficult. Okay? When a hadith is in harmony with the Quran, we accept it. So this is your homework. This is your homework, all those who listen to this video, wherever you are in the world. When the hadith is in harmony with the Quran, you accept it. This is your homework. Tell me whether the hadith of Ghazwatul Hind is in harmony with the Quran. This is your homework. But you can't do this homework in one day or 1 week. You have to take a lifetime of scholarly effort. Schoolboys can't offer opinions of whether a hadith is in harmony with the Quran. Schoolboys can't do that. Only a scholar could do that. But you can become a scholar and you're just 21 years of age. And he is 79 and 80 and 81 and still a schoolboy. Alright? You have to be a scholar. And you have to have commanding scholarship. رَاسِخُونَ fil ilm. Allah has to bless you with one of the ingredients of scholarship, which is insight, before you can offer an opinion. So don't rush to answer the question. Don't rush. Take your time. Is the hadith of Ghazwatul Hind in harmony with the Quran? They have not even studied the subject and they already accept it. That's their scholarship. Ours is different. Or is the hadith of Ghazwatul Hind in conflict with the Quran? That's your homework to do. Wherever this video goes, this is your homework. But what happens when a hadith is neither in harmony nor in conflict? As many hadiths are like that. And what do we do? Here is my answer. I gave it last night. When a hadith is neither in harmony nor in conflict, we will accept it. But we will never use that hadith for knowledge. We can use it for information. It can be valuable as information, but not as knowledge. You cannot divide the Muslims over such a hadith, a boxing match, and you have this sectarian movement of a Deobandi Brelvi boxing match, Shia Sunni boxing match. Leave me out of that. Tamasha is a game, Tamasha?
Yes.
Tamasha, yeah. What? Spectacle. Leave me out of that Tamasha. I'm learning some Urdu, take care. Leave me out of that Tamasha. Huh? I hope I'm using the correct word. And you do not divide the Muslims. Nor are you going to build a house of knowledge over such a hadith. Nor are you going to construct law on the foundations of such a hadith. So it's there and valuable as information, not as knowledge. So now about Damascus. There is a hadith that Nabi Isa alayhi salam will descend in Damascus. And the Imam will be in Damascus. And I asked myself, why Damascus? He left in Jerusalem, why isn't he coming back in Jerusalem? And then I remember that when the Messiah was to come the first time, Allah raised a man and gave him a name not given to anyone else in history. His name was Yahya alayhi salam, John. And when the Messiah came as an adult, this man said, here, that's the Messiah. And history repeats itself when the Messiah is to come back the second time. that he comes down from the sky with the hands on the wings of two angels. And then Allah brings forth a man who said, this is the Messiah. And history repeats itself. It's called positive identification by the divine decree. Yeah. That man was John the Baptist. This man is the Imam al-Mahdi. So why Damascus? And then I remembered that John the Baptist, his head is buried in that masjid. I went as a student myself to Damascus, and I went to the Masjid al-Umawi, where the head of John the Baptist is buried. So as Allah sends back the Messiah, He sends him to the place where John is buried, his head is buried. And that's where the Imam will meet him. So then I said, no, I'm not going to bother with Jerusalem anymore. I'm comfortable with Damascus. But I'm not using this to build a house of knowledge. When I build a house of knowledge, it has to be on foundations that are absolutely strong. Not even with a bulldozer you can shake it. That's my eschatology. So I take this as information, not as knowledge. Next question.
This question is coming from Brother Salman. What is the Ark of Covenant? If any relevance to the last day of the sign, had the Jesus ﷺ has founded an Ark of the Covenant to be put in the third temple.
What is the ark of the covenant? I never heard that word. You must open your mouth, you must use your lips, you must project your voice. When I was 21, I used to talk in a way nobody could understand me. I went to Egypt at 21. I spoke in what I thought was English. No Egyptian could understand me. I had to learn to speak all over again. Separate my words, pronounce my words distinctly and clearly. So Allah sent me to Egypt at 21 so I could learn to become a speaker. The Ark of the Covenant is something connected with Musa alayhi salam. And the angels used to take it when they went into battle. But this is not, for me, a subject on which I have studied and I'm able to offer any opinion. Next question.
This question is not related with the topic, but the brother is asking, Dr. Israr Ahmed said, we cannot change the system in Pakistan through the electoral process, but through the revolution. What is your recommendation?
When the word revolution is used, it is normally associated with the use of force to bring change. The use of force can either be offensive or defensive, and it's called jihad. Defensive jihad is always valid. If we are attacked and we have the power to defend ourselves, we must be ready to defend ourselves, even if we have to die. And if we don't have the power, then what do? We do what he did. He made hijrah. He left Makkah. Offensive jihad is a different matter from defensive jihad. Offensive jihad is when a condition of war exists and you are obliged to wage war. For example, a people who are oppressed, as in Kashmir, and they're crying out to you for help, the people of Palestine, of the Holy Land, and they're crying out to you for help. وَمَا لَكُمْ, what's wrong with you, says Allah. وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ من النساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها. A people who are oppressed and are crying out for help. Send help to us. We, the helpless men, women and children who are oppressed in this wicked land. Send someone to help us. And Allah says, what's wrong with you? Why don't you go and fight? Good? This is jihad, where you take the decision to go out, to liberate the oppressed. But you do not take up arms to liberate the oppressed until they ask you to come to liberate them. And when they ask you to come to liberate them, let me speak slowly so it sinks down. When they ask you to come to liberate them, then you can go. You don't go taking your arms to them without being invited to come. And when you liberate that land, the oppressed will all welcome you. And they will thank Allah that you came and liberated them. And when you've liberated that land will be a land of peace. And the snake would not know which corner to go and hide his head. Do I need to talk any more about Hindu India? Or have you have Panch rupiah of knowledge to be able to understand the bitterness and the hatred and the abiding hostility, and Modi is capturing the whole land with ever increasing hatred for you. He's succeeding. Every day that passes by, he's succeeding. Why do the Hindus hate you so much? Did you get an invitation to go and rule over India? Huh? If you get it, would you kindly show me the invitation card? Huh? Is it shocking for you that I should speak like this? Show me the invitation card. If you went to India peacefully, with a heart that was beating spiritually, and you preached Islam to the Hindus and they became Muslims, it would not leave hatred and bitterness and hostility. But when you go to India with a sword, and you conquer India, and you now rule over India, whether you are ruling with justice or injustice is irrelevant to me. Don't bring that nonsense to me. You did not invite you. You came with the sword and you conquered. And if you have a chance, you'll go back again and conquer them. And you'll be proud of what you're doing. May Allah protect this ummah from such misguided people.
Amen.
Who believe that they came with a sword to conquer the world in the name of Islam. On Judgment Day, they have a surprise coming for them. All right? So the hatred and the enmity and the hostility that is there in India and in the Balkans and in Russia, because of the Mughal Empire and the Ottoman Empire, Don't come to me and tell me of all the good things that the Ottoman Empire did. Don't insult my intelligence. Take that garbage elsewhere. I'm sorry I have to raise my voice, because you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. They are a people who will never change. So I'm moving on with them. You go your way. It is when you are invited to come and fight and liberate the oppressed, then you do that. And Kashmir is begging us. Kashmir is begging us. We are being oppressed. Palestine is begging us. We are being oppressed. Okay? No Muslim country intervened in Kashmir, none. No Muslim country intervened in Palestine, none. Only Putin in Russia. Only he intervened recently. Not Erdogan. Not Imran Khan. Putin's foreign minister, Lavrov, met with the US foreign secretary and told him what he told him. And then the US foreign secretary contacted Netanyahu, and then Israel stopped. So it was Putin who intervened. Can we intervene militarily? Can we wage jihad to liberate the Holy Land? Answer: when I arrived in Pakistan in 1964, I found that you had a rope around your neck, but it wasn't tight. And I come back 55 years later, and I find the rope is still around your neck, but now it's very tight. And is this called progress? In 72 years that this country is born and grown, no one has yet attempted to even recognize that this is a rope around your neck. They still say the paper money is halal. And every government still goes and borrows from the IMF and borrows from, including Imran Khan's, from the commercial banks on interest. And it was a man named John Perkins. He had to write a book to confirm what we've been teaching you all the time. Yes. That this is a rope around your neck. How can you wage jihad with this rope around your neck? If you want to liberate Jerusalem, first get the rope off your neck. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Huh? Otherwise your jihad will last for 2 days. And after 2 days, the rupee, instead of being 150, will be 15,000 to 1 US. And your economy has collapsed. Your troops are going to come back home. How do you get the rope from off your neck? I recorded a video maybe last week here in Lahore. Please check it out. Next question.
Sheikh, I think that's a very important answer that you've given, and we need to sit and think about this and move accordingly. I think we'll wrap up the question answers on that, and some very good questions we've had, and inshallah we'll try and get back to you. The book signing is the next thing to do. You can talk to Sister Nabila, who will help you in getting those books.
Khuda ke liye. Allow me first to do the autographing, and when that is finished, then if you want to take photographs, fine. I got a new suit today, mashallah.